Jon, thanks for coming to us today. Actually, great timing. You're in Köln, in your childhood home. Unfortunately, our event is not there, but still, thanks for being there. You're there, obviously, to visit your family, not just for us. But as a background, you were at one point the youngest assistant professor at Harvard Business School, and your work focuses on employees' passion for their work. So I think this is something super relevant to our audience today, and also the times that we find ourselves in. How often has someone actually told you, just follow your passion? And how have you responded in those moments?
I mean, the challenge is I hear that all the freaking time. Like, I remember when I was in college and you see these graduation speakers and they come in and they do these lofty addresses and they say, you want to make a difference in the world? Go and pursue your passion. Once you do that, everything is going to be fine. And the challenging question then is, how? So how do you do that? Like, we get told all the time that we should pursue our passion, but how do you do it? And when inevitably you encounter challenges, which you do, how do you fix that? Like, how do you surmount the challenges that you encounter? What happens when you fall out of passion? Those are the questions that keep me up at night, Olivia.
So when I look at your role now, you became an assistant professor in your 20s. You're named on the Forbes 30 under 30 list. If this was not a result of following your passion, what was it then?
Well, so here's the funny part. I moved to the US to get my PhD, not actually doing work on passion, but trying to understand how to help low-income individuals and people from disadvantaged backgrounds advance in society. And I'm in New York, I'm working, I'm there for my first year. It's a 5-year program. And I remember the day I stare at my screen and that passion that propelled me all the way across the Atlantic was gone, just absolutely gone. And it's frustrating, right? Like when you get that feeling, and I asked my advisor and my colleagues at the time, and they say, oh, don't worry. It's normal when you pursue your passion that you fall out. And I say, okay, what do you do? Like, I'm really getting, don't worry, they say, it'll come back. And to me, that was a really frustrating answer. And so I did what any researcher would do. I asked people to put me in touch with the most passionate person that they knew. And ended up interviewing hundreds of people from C-suite down to entry-level employees. And every single passionate person I talked to told me, once in my life, I fell out of passion. I know that feeling. And here's what I did in order to regain it. And so it is kind of interesting. Yes, I followed my passion in trying to find out why people struggle in the pursuit of passion, but it took me to fall out of passion to realize that.
You talked about saying that passion is not just something that you just follow. You have to, just develop it. Many people could be thinking, I just don't know what that passion is. I haven't found it. What do you say to them?
Yes, I think one of the biggest misconceptions that people have is that passion is something that you have, and once you have it, that it'll never change over time. In reality, the thing that you're passionate about, it's not a specific activity. It's what that thing means to you. And it's in this meaning-making process that a lot of challenges happen, because you need to know who you are. So you need to have a lot of self-awareness. You need to know what you care about. And then in what you're doing, you need to connect the dots between what it is that you're doing on a daily basis, how that connects to a broader vision and agenda, and then how both of these activities ultimately help you advance your own personal meaning goals, what it is that you care about, what it is that is really important to you. And mind you, it doesn't only have to be one thing. Like, you can pursue your passion in a number of different domains simultaneously. It doesn't just have to be about work. But that's, I think, what people get wrong all the time. They get so fixated on this one thing, or trying to find that one thing that'll magically make it click. But newsflash, like, that one thing doesn't exist.
So for you yourself, let's put you on the spot, okay? How do you actually develop a passion?
Absolutely.
If work is not your passion.
No, and I think it's a great and important question, particularly in this pandemic when so many of our behaviors have been disrupted. So let me tell you a personal story. I'm a passionate salsa dancer. I love dancing salsa. Now, if you're a salsa dancer, you also know that during the pandemic, that's probably the stupidest activity you do, right? You have 30 leads, 30 follows. Within 60 minutes, you're going to be in close contact with every single person. So not an activity to do. When the pandemic hit, I was really frustrated because I could not follow my passion anymore. So I had to sit down and think, why do I love dancing salsa so much? And the story I came up with now, and I don't know if that's a story that's always going to be the case, but the story I came up with now is that for me, salsa dancing is a way to connect with other people without necessarily using words, right? Ultimately, that's what salsa dancing is. Okay, So now that I know that that's something that I care about and I can't use salsa in order to advance that, the question then for me becomes, how do I advance that passion through a different activity? How else might I be able to connect with other people without necessarily doing that through salsa dancing? And for me, I found like making music with other people, which is something that you can do at distance, is another way that I can connect with someone else without necessarily using words. But it took me that little step to try to figure out, wait, what is it that I care about? What does this thing mean to me?
Jon, you sound so passionate right now. I'm sorry that we're saying this word 20 times, but you sound so passionate when talking about that. How did you, at the beginning, even convince your superiors, your supervisors to give you money to talk about, dig deeper into this topic? And I can imagine it's not the easiest thing to just sell.
Oh, absolutely not. It was an uphill battle. Like, remember, I moved to the US to study inequality. And then here I am suddenly like developing this nascent interest and passion. I think I did it the way that any startup founder would do. I went out, I did some user testing, right? I talked to people out there who were pursuing their passion. And then I found out that every single person actually told me that the pursuit of passion is really challenging. It's marked by setbacks. It's really emotionally painful to do that. I then looked at the way that we talk about passion in the academic literature and the popular space. And the way that we talk about it is that once you have it, everything is amazing. You go happy-go-lucky. And I went to my supervisors and I said, look at this weird thing that in the real world, there's this phenomenon of something that so clearly is different from what we think we know. And in that schism, in that space in between, if we figure this out, if we figure out how to teach people how to pursue their passion better, look at how many people who are currently struggling to pursue their passion we can actually address. And so then I went out, I collected some pilot data, I saw some promising results, and that's how ultimately I got people on board to make that my dissertation, ultimately now what it is that I study in my lab.
Very interestingly enough, the German word for passion is Leidenschaft, and it correlates to this ability to endure adversity. How does that actually match up with how we think about it in English, the word passion?
Yeah, so I love the German word for passion. And every single year, I teach my MBA students and all MBA students at HBS now that German word for passion, because I think it holds a really important truth, right? If you're passionate about something in German, you do it not because it's happy-go-lucky. You know that the pursuit is painful, but you do it anyway because it is so meaningful to you. And I think the way to think about it is that on an every single day basis, when you're pursuing your passion, you're doing something that is meaningful to you. So every single setback, it's going to hurt 10 times more. Every single activity that comes your way that is even tangentially related to your passion, you take that on, you carry that burden. So you're going to be more exhausted as a result of it. And mind you, how about managing all the other things that you've got going in your life, the non-work responsibilities, your hobbies, your friends, that becomes even more burdensome. And so I think we need to be very open and mindful that when we talk about passion, we talk about an inherently costly activity, emotionally, like time-wise. And what I think we need to do is we need to think of a support system for people who pursue their passion. When I talk to executives at like leading organizations and I ask them, why do you like hiring passionate people? Because they all do. They say, oh, they're easier to manage. They are self-driven. When in reality, what I find in my research, that is true. But because they're more self-driven, they take on too much work. Because they're self-driven, they care too much about their work. And ultimately, that means that they're more likely to burn out. They're more likely to actually have a really hard time detaching from the work. They're more likely to have work-life conflicts. Actually, management is more important, and it's harder to manage passionate people. But at the moment, our supervisors, our organizations, and our self-management is just not set up to support that.
Let's do a full circle. You said that there's so many universities that come out at the commencement speeches and people say, follow your dreams, follow your passion. Let's imagine that tomorrow you get the chance to do a commencement speech as an alumni at your university. What's the advice that you would give on achieving success without saying the word passion?
I mean, first of all, I tell them that they really like me. This is the best person you can do. Like, there are plenty of other more famous and better people than me. But I think the other thing that I would ask people is I'd ask them to consider where they want to make a meaningful difference in the world. And I think one of the challenges that we have is that when we talk about making a difference in the world, we think that making a difference needs to be tens of thousands or even bigger amounts of people. But actually, it doesn't have to be that many. There's in the Talmud, one of the Jewish writings, if you paraphrase it, every single person, it says, sees the world in a different way. So if you change one person, you've already changed the world. And so I think what I would challenge people is to define for themselves, what does it mean to make a difference for them? Like, put away all of the societal expectations of what making a difference means and define it for yourself. Who are the people, the community that you want to make a difference for? What is that difference? How are you going to measure that? And then like orient yourself around that and just cast everything else aside. And if it's a difference in the lives of a few people, your family, your partner, your kids, your community, that's totally okay. Like, there is space in the world for different kinds of people doing different things, making different kinds of differences. As long as you define that for yourself, and as long as you are successful on your own terms, I think that is what matters in the end.
Jon, thank you so much for sharing your insights and imparting your passion on us. And on that note, I hope everyone got to take something away from that. Thank you so much, and enjoy the break with your family. Take care.
Thanks so much. Take care. Bye, everybody.